but for all of humanity. And that's in large part because the president of its government, Pedro Sánchez of Spain, back in 2019, here at Goalkeepers, he took the stage and announced that Spain would return to the donor community, ready to contribute to the Global Fund after 10 years away. He said then, "You can depend on Spain." And over the last 6 years, his actions have matched those words. Spain's funding for global challenges, including global health, has increased. And there's a commitment to go even further, getting all the way to 0.7% of GDP by 2030. Since 2021, Spain has more than doubled its contributions to Gavi, providing millions of children with life-saving vaccines. He's also raised Spain's contribution to the Global Fund with steady growth at every replenishment. That commitment will help generations to come. And he's defended global collaboration and multilateralism, making sure all countries have a seat at the table when decisions are made. It's fair to say that under his leadership, we've seen Spain become one of the most engaged donor countries in the world. Prime Minister Sanchez, your actions are saving and improving lives, both in Spain and around the world. It's a great honor to present you with the Global Goalkeeper Award for 2025.
Hello, good evening, everybody. My name is Alessandra Galloni. I'm editor-in-chief of Reuters, and it's a pleasure to be here with the both of you this evening for a conversation that is before this audience, but that will also be live streamed to Reuters' global audience. So, congratulations.
I'm so excited. Thank you very much.
Yes, you were very excited backstage, too, I must say. So, let me dive right in. Under your leadership, Spain has kept funding global health when others have pulled back. And this has come amid pressure to spend money for other areas, for example, military or shoring up European defense against Russia. How have you managed to keep the spending for public health and development?
Well, of course, there's a conviction behind this political decision, but also, I would say, commitment and pragmatism. You know, we have a short memory, but 5 years ago we suffered a pandemic. Spain was quite touched because of this pandemic, and we realized how important it is to enable cooperation and increase our support for global institutions that are focused on health issues. So, you know, I think that there's not only a political decision taken from the government, but it is also a social support from Spaniards when it comes to cooperate with third countries, especially in North Africa and the southern flank of Europe, the Mediterranean, North Africa, and the Middle East, in order to, to increase and strengthen this global health architecture and policies. Even against pressure, including from the government of the United States. Well, the point here is that when you talk about security, security is also a matter of how do we face climate change. Not only mitigation policies, but also adaptation policies. And of course, if we want to speak about security, also is global in Europe and across the world. So that is why I think that there's a wrong message coming. Is, well, we're going to reduce our aid expenditure. And I think this is a wrong message. What we need to do is to increase aid, cooperation and development, and to, you know, of course, face a new reality that we have in the eastern flank of Europe, which is this neo-imperialism of Putin vis-a-vis, you know, countries such as Ukraine, but not creating this false or fake trade-off between aid and defense expenditure.
Got it. Mr. Gates, you have just pledged $912 million to the Global Fund, but you're also you also have been lobbying the US government to restore support for global health programs. How's that going?
Well, the Gates Foundation, if we look back on our 25 years, two of the things we're most proud of and that have clearly had incredible impact is joining others in the creation of Gavi to buy vaccines. And of course, we had that replenishment. We were together there just in June of this year. And now we have a Global Fund replenishment that's taking place, kind of a rolling set of announcements between now and the end of the year. And so today, literally this minute, we're announcing that commitment where we're maintaining the support we provided 3 years ago. You know, we're definitely in dialogue with all the rich countries saying, hey, of all the government money you spend, you know, this is saving lives way more effectively. And, you know, please, for the most generous, provide up to 2% of your budget, but on average, it's about 1% broadly for all of aid, global health being a very important component of it. I do think Americans should be proud that on global health and HIV in particular, the country has been very generous. That goes back to 2001, where in a very bipartisan way, President Bush created both the bilateral program, PEPFAR, and the multilateral program, Global Fund. And heretofore, and I hope, and you could say I'm optimistic, the US has provided a third of all the funding for Global Fund. So they've been by far the biggest donor. The European donors collectively about match the United States. But the United States has shown great leadership on this, and that's an organization that's extremely well run, very low overhead, working on, of course, HIV, malaria, and TB. We have exciting new tools for every one of those diseases. For example, a shot that protects a woman for 6 months, and we'll get the cost of it down over the next couple of years. So it's only $40 for an entire year of protection, which would mean coming in twice. So you know, everyone who really goes to Africa and sees this work comes away deeply affected. And so we hope to see the US continue to provide leadership here.
So just in your optimism then, is there a specific program or programs that you think might get that fresh injection from the US government as a result of your conversations?
Yeah, so with the US government, usually this is a question for the Congress, where the Congress did provide in the budget that's currently active very generous funding for these programs. Some of that money, a little over half, is not being spent today, although there's some discussion about some of that coming back. So we have to have really two things here. We have to have the Congress pass a budget, which I'm 90% sure will be quite generous on these global health programs, at most a very modest cost. And then we have to convince the administration that actually fulfilling that budget commitment is a great thing for the United States. And I'm also optimistic about that.
Okay. We talked just now about vaccines, so I have to ask you, what is your assessment on or of Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s U.S. vaccine policy and U.S. global leadership on public health?
Well, obviously, I have been very involved with vaccines, and the biggest single reason why childhood death went from 10 million down to 5 million is because of the availability of new vaccines. There were really three, one called pentavalent, one called rotavirus for diarrhea, and one called pneumococcus for pneumonia. And those have been made available to all the world's children. We've reduced the cost very dramatically, which is making room for new vaccines for things like RSV, HPV, which is to prevent cervical cancer. It's an incredible story, and we have a great pipeline of vaccines coming. It is tragic that we see this vaccine skepticism, because even though the number of additional deaths in the rich world is likely to be modest, every life should count, and when the poor countries hear that skepticism, it spreads there as well. And there, the chance of a child dying when they get measles is about 30% versus about 1% in rich countries. And so, tragically, that skepticism, which is not well-founded, will have caused more deaths outside the country than inside the country. And so, we're, carrying the message about the value of vaccines, and of course, very serious about the safety testing to make sure that the benefit is overwhelming.
So with RFK Jr., you've agreed to disagree?
On vaccines, yes. I've met with him, and there are other things like this HIV cure work that is what's called a gene editing approach. And so I'm hoping in some areas we can work together, because the US government research budget has always been a huge supporter of global health innovation.
Prime Minister Sanchez, we are on the eve of a UNGA, and of course, the war in Gaza looms large this week. In a major shift, just in these hours, France, the UK, Australia, and Canada have joined you. You were the first in recognizing a Palestinian state. But you have said that you want to go further. For example, banning Israel from sporting events. What do you hope to achieve this week?
So, I had the chance to meet Prime Minister Netanyahu like 2 months after these horrible and terrible terrorist attacks perpetrated by Hamas, and we condemn it, and we urge Hamas to release the hostages, and this is, was really clear, stated by the Spanish government, and I believe the whole international community. But one thing is the right of a country to defend its country, and another, this suffering, this humanitarian tragedy, and killing innocent people. And I'm really concerned that the indifference, the lack of empathy, is gaining presence in the public debate and in the minds of the international society, and that is why I think it's so important that we raise the voice. We urge for an immediate ceasefire, allow the humanitarian aid enter into Gaza, stop this war, and open a political process that end up with the recognition of the state of Palestine. And I think this is this is a must for the international community. And you know, coming from Europe, coming from a European country, I always share with my peers in the European Council that the same values and principles that we are defending in Ukraine are the same values that we should defend in Palestine, which are international law and international humanitarian law. And I think that when you see after 2 years, the question that the Israeli society should answer is if they are today, or their country is more secure than before the war. I believe they are less secure and more isolated. So I think that the strategy that Prime Minister Netanyahu follows after these terrorist attacks is wrong. Because when you fight against terrorism, there are 3 policies that you have to take in place. Of course, there is the security dimension, how to fight against terrorists. But there are other 2, which is respect for international law in this case, so justice, and third, politics, diplomacy. At the end of the day, we need also to fight against the ideology behind these terrorist organizations. Coming from Spain, that we suffer for many years, for 40 years, terrorism, national terrorism in the Basque Country, and also the jihadist terrorism in Spain, we know quite well how to fight against terrorism. And I think there is a political battle that we need, or at least the society need to put in place, and in order to, let's say, reduce the presence of this ideology, no? But not killing innocent people, and of course not recognizing Palestine statehood, which, by the way, will be the political solution to stabilize the Middle East and to allow the Israeli society and the Palestine society to live in peace and with security. And that is why I think what has happened today in the General Assembly is so important. At the end of the day, you have 2 countries from the Security Council, the UK and France, recognizing the state of Palestine. And second, within the Western society or countries, I believe there's a large majority nowadays of countries that already recognize Palestine statehood. And this is great news for the international community and great news for the Palestinians.
Mr. Gates, in your opening speech, you spoke about this being a miraculous time for innovation, and of course you spoke of AI. Can you tell us what you are most excited about? And also, some say that big tech is spending too much on this technology. What do you think?
Well, it may be that in the end, individual companies' investments will, in retrospect, have been proven too much. But I can say with total conviction, AI is going to change the world in a dramatic way. And many good things, but because of the rate of change, it will challenge us as well. For my work at the Gates Foundation, we have 4 dreams about AI. One is to use AI to discover new health tools much faster than ever before. And that is already happening in a way that makes my job fun and surprises me every single month. The second, which we're just at the very beginning of, is that if you're in a low-income country and you have a cell phone, in your native language, you should be able to talk to a virtual doctor and get advice and understand, okay, when do I need to go to the clinic? If you're a person living with HIV, if you're a pregnant mother. And doing that with very high quality and at a reasonable cost does seem within grasp. And so for the next few years, we'll have pilots and really look at enabling healthcare delivery. The two other scenarios, one that not everybody works on, but agriculture after our health, which is 70% of our work. Our next biggest program is our work in agriculture. And so the dream is that the poorest farmer in Africa, in their native language, would have better agricultural advice than the richest farmer today in the United States or Spain has about prices and weather and varieties and diseases. They'll be talking through with data about their particular, even fairly small plot of land. And then finally is AI in education. And so, you know, it's the biggest technical revolution in my lifetime. It's built on the digital revolution that I got to be a part of. And the foundation is going to try to make sure that even the poorer countries are benefiting as quickly as the rich countries.
So we have only a couple more minutes, unfortunately, but in your autobiography, you say that you have a recurring dream, including now, that you're at Harvard, your alma mater, and that you don't know where your class is, you don't know which textbook you need, you're wandering around looking for the exam room, and you are sure that you will fail. What do you worry you will fail at now?
Well, there are days when I look at the cause that we're talking about here, in helping children survive and thrive, and I think, what are we doing wrong? I mean, isn't this pretty straightforward that we shouldn't cut the resources going to this work? And what am I missing? You know, why do we do such a bad job? I had a period of time between 2000 and 2008 where I was still full-time at Microsoft, but part-time for the foundation. So I'd go to a big global event like Davos, and on one day I would announce a new piece of software, and you know, the press was there and so excited, and oh my God, this is so great, which it was. And then, you know, the next day I would go to the Gavi press conference. Okay, we're just saving millions of children's lives, and we just, you know, rolling out the rotavirus vaccine, and like nobody would be there. And so it is, you know, this is a world, you know, capitalism responds to the consumers who have money, and the people who suffer from and die from malaria, their voice in the marketplace is so weak that the only way to take this mistake that a pure market system makes and offset it is through a combination of government generosity and philanthropy. And you know, it's possible that aid budgets will keep getting cut over the next 10 years. And we have aging societies. You know, we have a request to get defense spending up to 5% of GDP, which you could, you know, spend all the aid budgets 4 times over just by, if you cannibalize them, trying to get to a number that high. So I don't know that we'll succeed, but it certainly is the most moral cause that I've ever been involved in, so it really should succeed.
So last question, one for the both of you. Very simple. This evening is about children. So, and I'll give you a second to think about it. What is the one word that each of you would give to the children of today that will inspire them for tomorrow?
A word?
One word.
I would say commitment.
Commitment.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of curiosity.
And you got alliteration as well, commitment and curiosity. On that note, we have to close. Thank you very, very much.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much. Thank you very much. Well done. Thank you.
Very well done.
you.